We are back. Welcome to Boys Bet Ball, episode 15. I was trying to say Boys Bet Live. Boys Bet Ball Live, episode 15. This is the Super Bowl. Honestly, I should have switched those around. It's more like NBA trade deadline special plus the Super Bowl. But nonetheless, we're back. Yeah, man. I thought this was going to be one of the driest trade deadlines we've had in a while, and we had some pretty good trades, not gonna lie. I wouldn't say any like uber big blockbuster trades where like a huge megastar ends up getting shipped somewhere else, but someone like a Giannis.
I mean, your guy, James Harden.
Would you call him a mega superstar?
I think you would.
You saw the I love that reel I sent you. It was so funny. So essentially there's this reel where this guy, he's like, I pledge allegiance to Harden. He like has the Rockets James Harden jersey like up on a hanger, and he's like pledging allegiance to it. Well, I think he's wearing like a Brooklyn Nets jersey. Oh man, dude. And I was like, this is literally me. To be fair, I'm like, I glaze him a lot because I do really like him as a player. I think he's deserving of all the accolades that he's gotten so far. Is he the best playoff performer? No. But as far as like pure scorer and offensive player, like, yeah, he's definitely top 10 all time. Yeah. Well, we won't get into that, but it was just really funny reel.
Yeah, cool. I mean, do you just want to dive right in?
Yeah, let's dive right in. I mean, man, it sucks to not have Woj anymore, but we have Shams to kind of pick up the slack for him. I don't know where you want to start. I guess what we can do to start, I actually have this post from X, which I think is great to kind of sum up the trade deadline. And then we can, obviously, we're not going to go into each individual trade, but we're going to go into a good amount of them just because they do impact the league a good amount. So I'm just going to share my screen real quick. So this is from Underdog NBA. And actually, I love this. Just like Underdog NBA, there's also Underdog NFL, and they keep me up to date on basically anything that happens with either of those sports leagues, which is pretty awesome. Literally half the time I get a notification from them or Shams because I have alerts noted on my phone. And then it's like, for example, the James Harden trade. I was like, oh, Harden. And he's like, what? Or I see the Anthony Davis trade to the Wizards. And I just texted him Wizards. And he's like, wait, what are you talking about? I'm just like, just look it up. And yeah, so I get really good up-to-date data. Highly recommend if you guys want that type of data. But anyway, here's a little bit of a summary of the trade deadline that they put together. I don't even know if I can't even put it all on one screen without having to like zoom out on it.
Yeah, no, I saw a post on Instagram that was showing some of the faces and the player's picture and their new team name, and I saw Eric Gordon, and I'm like, wait, Eric Gordon's still playing basketball?
Yeah, he was with the Sixers. He got traded to the Sixers when James was there. I don't
I know, but like, I mean, I don't religiously watch, the Sixers, but I was like, I had no idea Eric Gordon was still playing. I mean, he's averaging 5.5 points per game. So
he's not really playing, I mean, he's old. He's like, what, 34, 35? 37, dude. That's crazy. But yeah, he got traded to the Grizzlies, and I think they waived him. Anyway, but obviously they kind of put the big name trades up at the top. James Harden to the Cavs, AD to the Wizards, Trae Young to the Wizards. Trae Young trade was probably the very first trade to kind of really start off the trade deadline. And then Triple J, the Jazz, and all that jazz. And then those are the big trades. And then they kind of go alphabetically by team. So if you want reference to this, check it out. I mean, follow me on X, first of all, as well as, since we're already talking about it, go ahead and give the stream a like and subscribe. And be sure to follow us on Instagram as well as of course, here on YouTube. All right, but going basically they're just lining out the trades alphabetically after the big name trades. There's some good moves that the Mavs made that I was really a little bit surprised, and then also like pretty happy. We'll get into like kind of my reaction, both our reactions about stuff, and then of course you have the. I love how they have Chris Paul sent home again. Poor Chris Paul, man. And just recently, I want to say like an hour ago, the Nets announced Cam Thomas. They're waiving him, which was actually pretty surprising. After, I mean, I know they have a bunch of young talent, but he's a pretty good player. They just have a lot of other young players that they don't know what to do with. So it's kind of interesting, and I wouldn't be surprised if there's definitely going to be a team that picks him up. But then you have all the waived players down here, which I'm sure players like maybe Alonzo Ball might get picked up by another contender, or Mason Plumlee, potentially Niang as well, but we'll see. All right, but that's a good summary. Also, there was a good tweet as well. Spencer was mentioning it, where it kind of has like a picture of all like the big name players that were traded, which I thought was pretty cool. Whoever put this together is great. I'm sure they have a whole team behind it at ESPN. But what trade do you want to go into first, or do you want to just get to like the meat of it, like the
Yeah, I feel like it'd be easiest. I'm up on ESPN and they show every single trade. I can just share my screen and we can just scroll up. I'm at like February 3rd, which was 2 days ago. Trade deadline, comes at you fast, but I can share my screen and we can just talk about some of the trades that were most impactful. We're obviously not going to talk about Blazers acquire Vit Cherigifi from the Atlanta Hawks for
Krejci. Yeah,
Krejci. So let me just share that.
I actually like him. Yeah, he's a good. I mean, he's known for his shooting, but that so far this season he's been awful. Well, the last part of this season, he's been pretty bad. So I'm not surprised that they try to.
Yeah, so I figured we start on the February 3rd one. This one's shocked. I think both of us, both living in Utah for 4+ years, but the Utah Jazz deciding they're done, or they're trying to accelerate their rebuild, going ahead and trading for Jaren Jackson Jr. as well as 3 other Memphis players, John Conchar, Jock Londale, and Vince Williams, giving up Slow-Mo going back to Memphis, Kyle Anderson, one of their first round picks in Walter Clayton Jr. from Florida, a former first round pick that really hasn't panned out, Taylor Hendricks, George Minivan Niang, and 3 future first round picks. And then we talked about it off stream, but Mike, what are your thoughts on this trade by Utah?
Honestly, I was super surprised. Obviously, like you mentioned, the Jazz want to accelerate their rebuild, and I wouldn't say they're necessarily done rebuilding. I think I want to say Jock Landale, they traded him as well as Vince Williams later on, I think the next day. So they did a couple more moves afterwards, but I was pretty surprised that they picked up Triple J. I'm also kind of somewhat equally surprised with the Grizzlies. I mean, they still have Ja, and they didn't trade Ja. If anyone would have gotten traded, I thought it would be Ja, but obviously everyone's talking about how there's literally like no appetite for Ja by any team in the NBA. So I guess that makes sense to keep him at this point. But yeah, Memphis totally rebuilding, and it's pretty sad, honestly, to see that. But the Jazz kind of pushing the chips in a little bit. I was very surprised to see. I mean, they got a plethora of young players. Memphis does. Walt Clayton Jr. can be interesting, a guy that can come off the bench, do some interesting stuff. I don't think much of Kyle Anderson. He's just kind of a piece. I don't know how many years is on his contract. It might be an expiring contract. But Taylor Hendricks, I think, is interesting as well. I think he's a really good player. Let me rephrase. I think he's a good player. His rookie season, I believe he broke his leg, so he didn't really play much his rookie season. I think this is like his third year. And they just kind of have a lot of players similar position-wise to Taylor Hendricks. And like Bryce Sensabaugh, Ace Bailey, like all these guys who are like 6'8", 6'9", who are kind of like small forward, power forward type players. So not a huge loss for the Jazz, especially their team being really big. They also have like Lauri Markkanen. Niang, I mean, he's not a needle mover really. He's just a player that kind of got through in. But the big thing here is the 3 future first-round picks. And, I mean, essentially Utah got 5 first-round picks, 4 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert. So I think these are a lot of Minnesota's picks, I want to say, that they're giving to Memphis on this one. But yeah, Triple J, he's an intriguing player, former defensive player of the year. I believe he's like 28. So he's kind of in his prime at the moment. And Triple J is actually pretty excited to go to Utah. He talked about how big the lineup is there. And he's like, I don't have to worry about I don't have to like grab a single rebound for the rest of my life now.
Yeah, no, I mean, ESPN, I wish they would break down what future first round picks were. I think you'd have to go to a different website that went more granular. But I decided when this trade happened, just, having ties in Utah to look into it. Those aren't any of Memphis's first round picks. I believe those first round picks are the worst of like 3 teams. One of those teams being Oklahoma City. So you can almost, for this year, so you could basically just chalk that as the 30th pick in this year's NBA draft. So essentially like a second round pick. You have the Lakers' top 4 protected pick next year that they acquired from trading us Jaren Vanderbilt. So that unless, some unforeseen injury happens to Luka next year, that'll still probably be outside of the lottery, 20s. And then the last pick, which is probably the most valuable, but still isn't, I don't see a ton of value in it, is 2031 Phoenix Suns first round pick. I think they said Devin Booker will only be 34 at that time. So still, somewhat in his prime. So I think Utah did a great job. You somewhat question the fit with next year's potential starting front court of Lauri Markkanen, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Walker Kessler. Huge on paper, but spacing somewhat of a concern. I guess all 3 of those guys can make threes, but you have to worry about, not just defending the interior.
Kessler cannot hit threes, I'll tell you that.
I've seen him pull some threes. Yeah,
I mean, he'll shoot them if he's wide open. They're letting him shoot it, but I wouldn't say he's a knockdown shooter.
No, I mean, I said like can shoot. Like I think if he's wide open in the corner, he can make a 3. Like he shoot.
Keep going. I'm gonna look at his shooting splits.
Yeah, and Jaren Jackson. I mean, Lauri Markkanen obviously can shoot threes, and Jaren Jackson Jr. probably not as a prolific shooter as Lauri Markkanen, but all those guys can shoot threes. Big front court. The NBA sometimes are kind of motioning towards, not necessarily smaller teams in terms of smaller guards, but more consolidated, just like Draymond Green, like what the Warriors did with the death lineup, whatever they called it, back when they had Kevin Durant with Draymond playing the 5. But yeah, I mean, just considering Utah's situation in the sense that they are Utah and they never really attract big name free agents, I consider it a huge win, especially with, the players Mike went over, not really. Walter Clayton Jr. is interesting. I think he played all 4 years at Florida, so he's an older rookie. Taylor Hendricks never materialized, and these guys are kind of journeymen. I feel like it's an absolute win. So I would give the Utah Jazz as the winners of that trade.
Really? I actually think it's the Memphis Grizzlies on this one. Just
I
because of
just
the
feel like
picks. I mean, like Jaren Jackson Jr. I mean, it's all dependent on like how this experiment goes. And I remember you saying, because I told you Jazz traded for Triple J, and you're like, "Oh, Laurie trade imminent," and I'm like, "Oh, I don't know about that. They might keep him, but I can see them trading them as well." And they ended up not trading him. I think that and then the Jazz, I assume they're still going to be pretty much tanking for this year because I believe they have their own first round pick, so they're going to try to, get a top 10 pick in this year's draft. And I think they're just going to try to build around Keontae George, which it makes sense. Like Keontae George has been a really good player. Is he like a super sensational, going to be a superstar? I don't know. I think he's like could potentially be an all-star, but yeah, I'm not.
Yeah, like what player are you excited about in this haul? Like, I don't think any of the players.
I guess
that are
for me, it would
currently-
just be the picks because you could potentially like Triple J is a good player. Is he like a franchise changing player? No, I think he would be more of like a role player, kind of like he's been.
Yeah, but I mean, Triple J was drafted with the 4th overall pick. Like, the first pick that's going to convey is Oklahoma City, 30th this year, basically a second round pick. Next year, the Lakers first round pick going to be in the 20s, so not a lottery pick. So you're essentially hoping in 5 years that the Phoenix Suns are bad to reap the benefits of this trade. I just don't see, like, it's just a product of holding on to a player way too long and now getting pennies on the dollar. Like Triple J, yeah, with all of his flaws, he still is a former defensive player of the year and one of those players that, yeah, just affects the game so much on the defensive end as well as gives you a decent amount of offense.
Yeah, I see it. I would have loved for them to trade for like more of like a two or three, or like more like a swing position type of player. Just because, I mean, they're kind of already loaded in the front court. And like, unless they're expecting, and I know the Jazz have been playing, to be fair, I haven't watched a ton of Jazz games. I don't know how many people actually do, but I think they're kind of playing Ace Bailey at the 2 position, which I don't know how that's going to work out.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely hear you. I mean, that's what every team wants, a 2-3 guard, 6'6", 6'8", 3-and-D guys, but those guys are going for crazy premiums. So Utah, like I said, who doesn't have a opportunity to really attract those people in free agency, goes and gets, a top 30, top 40 player in the NBA for really nothing. I consider it a win. It's kind of similar to our feelings way back when they traded for Mike Conley. Mike Conley and Donovan Mitchell's fit was a little, on paper and also how they played, albeit they were the number 1 seed one year, was a little bit clunky. I feel like this has more of a potential to work. And just for the minimum amount that you've given up, I like it for Utah.
Okay. I guess we can agree to disagree. But yeah, it's an interesting move for the Grizzlies as well. But you get a lot of young players, and then you get a bunch of picks in return. And I was telling Spencer earlier, now the Memphis Grizzlies have just as many first-round picks, I think, in the next 7 years, in the next 7 drafts, as OKC and Brooklyn, to put things in perspective. So they're loading up on picks.
Yeah, so that was the first major one, and then the dominoes kept falling. I mean, you can just let me know which ones we want to talk about. We see Mike Conley eventually got shipped out of Chicago to, I believe, the Hornets, and the Hornets are going to buy him out. Chicago, they made a ton of moves this trade deadline. I think they traded almost half their team, with 2 of those players being Kevin Huerter and Dario Saric. Detroit went and got the shooter they've been desperately missing due to not signing Malik Beasley due to the gambling probe. If you're going to gamble, like me and Mike, do not be in the NBA or any professional sports, let alone
that's a good start.
betting on yourself. And I think they ended up shipping out Dario Saric as well, so they really just wanted Kevin Huerter. Do you want to touch on that at all, or just keep going?
Yeah, I mean, I was surprised at Chicago making so many moves, but I mean, like, I think I was very surprised that the Heat didn't make any moves, but we can touch on that a little bit later. They're one of 3 teams that did not make a single trade uh, during the trade deadline. But essentially, what Chicago did, and we'll see further up, they trade Kevin Herter, but they also trade essentially their whole backcourt except for Josh Giddey, which they just traded for, I believe, a couple seasons ago. So they shipped out Herter, they shipped out Kobe White, who I'm a big Kobe White fan. People have, their criticisms about him. Is he the best defensive player? Like, no, but he can light it up when it comes to scoring. So I think he's a very useful piece, and he's now on a very dangerous, I'd say, Charlotte team, which looks super interesting. And they also shipped out Ayu Dosunmu that came off the bench, and he started a good amount of games for the Bulls when Kobe White was out with injury at the beginning of the season. So they essentially just like rehauled their backcourt, and I actually kind of like them picking up Jaden Ivey. Jaden Ivey was kind of trapped a little bit in Detroit, especially, Cade Cunningham's your franchise player. And who's their starting 2 guard? Oh, Duncan Robinson, right? Duncan Robinson, and who's the 3? Tobias Harris. No, he's their 4. But anyway, I don't think, especially Jaden Ivey.
Is Asur starting?
Oh yeah, Asur Thompson. So he wasn't getting a lot of burn in Detroit, obviously backing up those guys and coming off of pretty lengthy injury. So I think it's a good new place to revive his, young career in Chicago. Do something with Josh Giddey, who's actually played pretty well for the Bulls, and I guess they didn't ship out just their backcourt, but they shipped out their starting center as well, which is like maybe the next trade we go into.
Yeah, for sure. So they just kept it going. Boston's desperately been needing a center, losing Kristaps or trading Kristaps Porzingis this last offseason, and playing a lot better than maybe they thought they would. Maybe kind of seen as a gap year without Jason Tatum. So they went ahead and shipped off Anthony Simons, who they got for the Drew Holiday trade. He's an expiring deal, good young player, but Chicago decided to finally part ways with Vucevic, sending him to Boston and receiving, Simon back, and they swapped, I guess, 2nd-round picks. So thoughts on who do you think won that trade?
I mean, I'd say the Celtics needed a big. I mean, when Neemias Queta, I mean, he's a pretty serviceable player, but losing Luke Cornett was big for them, him going to the Spurs as a free agent. So they had a big hole missing in their front court at center position. And, Queta did an okay job of filling that, but Vucevic kind of gives you a little bit of Porzingis vibes back whenever they won the championship. So I think it's a good pickup, and it fits their play style a lot. And I mean, you give them Anthony Simons. Well, you said he was an expiring contract.
Yeah, I think he's expiring at the end of the season.
Yeah, so I mean, Chicago has the ability, if they want to re-sign him, they can. If not, essentially, you kind of offload a little bit on Vucevic's contract, which I don't know exactly how much he was getting paid, but I'm sure it was a decent amount. So essentially, just kind of like a 2nd-round trade swap with the flexibility and ability to re-sign Simons if he ends up playing pretty well towards the end of the season, especially since they kind of redone their whole backcourt.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, we talked about it. How Chicago made a ton of moves. It's still not what I think Chicago fans want in terms of a true, complete tear it down. But I don't think their owner, Jerry Reinsdorf, is able to just completely Philadelphia 76ers trust the process tank. But I feel like this was a good start. There are a lot of players that were on the team, and they would kind of just keep them in the perpetual, like me and Mike have talked about, the annual playing games where they're, in a 7 through 10 seed every single year, or probably closer to a.
Was the 3 teams that are always or 8, 9, 10 in the Eastern Conference, or the are the Bulls, the Heat, and
the Bulls. Or the Bulls,
the Hawks.
Heat, and the Hawks.
Yeah, that's like those the same three teams every single year. And I want to say the Bulls finished with like 39 wins the past like 3 seasons.
Yeah, exactly. So they're always invited to the Eastern playing game invitational, and they usually don't make it out, or if they do, they're just sacrificed to the number 1 seed in the East. So we'll keep it going with this huge trade. The next one, I think I broke this one to Mike. I texted him during the Clippers 76ers game, and I told him Harden to Cleveland. And it wasn't official back then, but at halftime they reported that they were having discussions for a straight up swap, Darius Garland for James Harden. I think initially Cleveland was wanting the Clippers to send them a first round pick, and then it ultimately ended up where Cleveland sent the Clippers a second round pick to get the deal done. But I'll let you talk about this one, Mike, because James Harden's your guy. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, clearly Cleveland's in win now, mode, which I don't blame them with the Celtics, how scary they've been this season without Jason Tatum, the emergence of the Detroit Pistons, Cade Cunningham, Jalen Duren, their young squad. Yeah, I mean, Cleveland, you're kind of in win mode now. You've made the playoffs a good amount of years ever since LeBron left, kind of did that whole rebuild then. And you had Kyrie for a bit, but then he moved on to Boston. And then now you have like Donovan Mitchell there, which I don't even know who is in Cleveland before Donovan Mitchell and in between Kyrie Irving, because I think they're kind of irrelevant.
Lauri Markkanen.
Yeah, like I don't even remember who was on that team. But then they made the trade for Donovan Mitchell, which Donovan's been balling this year. Like the Cavs have been definitely disappointing to say the least, having the best record in the NBA last year. But Donovan Mitchell's been balling, and clearly, obviously, this from the front office as well as Donovan Mitchell. There's been several quotes from Donovan Mitchell himself saying, somewhat wanted to make a move, somewhat inciting that he wanted Darius Garland traded in a sense. But the front office was definitely frustrated with Garland's inability to stay on the court, dealing with that toe in last year's playoffs. I want to say he was hurt in the playoffs the year before. And yeah, you give up Darius Garland, who 26 years old. He still has a lot of runway left in him, but injury history, especially these guards, undersized guards. It's not like he's like a 6'4", 6'5" player. He's like, okay, he could be like a franchise player. Like I think at this point in his career, Darius Garland's not going to be a franchise player. He's going to be more of a role player. So that, and then a role player that has injury history is not great. And I want to say he's making like $40 million a year. So is it ideal for Cleveland? Probably not, but say what you just want to say about Harden. He has his downsides, of course, but he's been reliable. And I think at this point, this trade is essentially like, all right, we know exactly what we're going to get with James Harden. We don't know what we're going to get with Darius Garland, if anything, like playing wise on the court. So let's make a trade for him. And also, I love the fact for the Cavs that on paper, their roster actually looks really good. I was telling Spencer this, like Max Strus hasn't played majority of the year. Maybe he'll be back for the playoffs. They still have Jared Allen. They still have Evan Mobley. They still have Donovan Mitchell. They have young players emerging. Jaden Tyson. He's played a lot. What's that guy's name? Neek Tompkins has been pretty good for the Cavs with a lot of their injuries that they've had. So, I mean, adding a James Harden, I think that only elevates their ceiling for sure. I thought it was a somewhat win-win trade. And James Harden, I think he wanted more money. So I have a feeling with this trade insinuates that I don't know if Cleveland necessarily promises anything, but they might sign him for like an extra year or something.
Yeah, I think you hit on probably all the major points I want to talk about. My only question, like I said, Darius Garland on paper is a great player, just like James Harden has just struggled to stay on the court, which is the whole paper situation. You kind of have to ask yourself, where are the Clippers headed? Because they finally started playing good basketball, getting off to a really slow
They
start.
blew it up.
Yeah, it seems like I saw somebody saying that maybe their James Harden caught wind of a possible suspension coming to Kawhi Leonard for his whole tree planting scenario during the offseason. Maybe he was like, yeah, I'm 36 years old. I'm trying to compete for a championship, and we can't do that without Kawhi. So get me out of here. So the Clippers made another big move, like Mike insinuated, and we'll talk about later on. But yeah, we'll see how this new backcourt works with Cleveland. James Harden obviously is available and still playing at a super high level. So Cleveland was my number one pick in our wins losses draft. So hopefully they're able to turn it on at the towards the end of the second half of the season.
Yeah, because what is Cleveland sitting at right now in the standings? Let me look.
I know they have 31 wins because they have the win losses.
Yeah, they're like nine above 900.
Yeah, so like 31, 23, somewhere around.
Yeah, I mean they're fourth right now. Like, and to be fair, those top 3 seeds are good, and those I totally forgot to add New York into there. New York made a couple small moves, but nothing that big. But New York's a really good team, so yeah, Cleveland's kind of in no man's land, kind of where they were at, and you could clearly see that in the playoffs last year. They really lacked reliability in scoring. I mean, Donovan Mitchell was having to do everything himself. So I think you add a player like James Harden, and I think Donovan Mitchell's still going to be the man in Cleveland. You just take away a lot of the like facilitating responsibility from him, and then you put in James Harden. And James Harden's always one of those players, like he can give you a little bit every single night. Can you rely on him to consistently get 20 plus points in every single playoff game? No. So you're going to have to deal with some nights that he might disappear, but he'll facilitate pretty well, which is the kind of the role he's playing in this point of his career.
Most definitely keeping it moving. I was gonna say my former guy, but I guess it's also
who do you think won that trade then?
I think immediately Cleveland. In the future, Clippers, if Garland can get his feet right. I will say this Cleveland trade, and I told Mike, James Harden only has, I think said $13 million guaranteed next season. He might want obviously he wants more money, more years. They might be able to facilitate that, maybe not at the number he wants, but a lot of the moves that Cleveland made were to, get out of or get below the second apron to allow them to make more moves. I'm just saying, I'm a Lakers fan, and LeBron's contract ends this year. Just gonna throw that out there.
Yeah, potentially could go join back to Cleveland for his last year or two. I was telling Spencer, I'm like, I know he's LeBron. I know he commands, like, he pretty much can get whatever he wants salary-wise because he's freaking LeBron. But at this point in time, like, if you're a team competing for a championship, like, you're telling LeBron, hey, we would love to have you back, but, dude, we can't pay you $40 million a year.
No, I agree. And I don't know. I will send Mike a Chipotle order if LeBron signs for anything less than $20 million. His next contract.
What, 20 million? Okay, that's reasonable. I thought I was saying like below 30. 25.
I would even push it to 20. I would even push it to 25, and I might be crazy enough to do 30.
All right, 30 then. I'll let you think about it. But yeah,
okay, yeah,
$30 million for, like, I know he's LeBron, but like trying to compete for a championship.
I mean, Tobias Harris makes like $30 million.
Yeah, but he's like, yeah, I agree. Like Tobias, I think we both agree. Like his contract is disgusting. But
there are a lot of dudes that make $30 million that you just scratch your head at. Like,
yeah,
I think Drew Holiday makes over $30 million.
I mean, Detroit's a title contending team now, but they didn't make that contract whenever they were a competing team.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you could look up Drew Holiday. I'm pretty sure he's making an excess of $30 million. Like LeBron has an ego, and to say he's going to take less than 30, I think 30 would probably be the place where it lands, but less than 20, yeah, that
No,
would
yeah,
be.
I think like 25 to 30 is probably the sweet spot.
Yeah. Well, let's keep it going because we've been running for 35 already. Like I said, I was gonna say my former guy, but it's also Mike's former guy. I don't even know if he maybe
Both
even
your former
claim
guys,
him.
they always, D'Lo always ends up staying with 80 somehow.
Yes, but Anthony Data Davis. This was a huge shock. Mike just texted me Washington or Wizards.
Wizards.
Then a minute or two later, I saw it on my feed. Anthony Davis gets traded to the Washington Wizards, along with, like Mike said, he can't escape D'Angelo Russell. Whether he likes him or not, he's always stuck with him. So is Jaden Hardy and Dante Exum. And Dallas receives back Chris Middleton, expiring contract. AJ Johnson, think he was a recent draft pick. I don't know, was he a first round draft pick or?
I don't know. I think he's like a rookie or he's in a sophomore year. I don't know too
Yeah,
much.
AJ Johnson, Malachi Branham, who I think they ultimately end up shipping out
Yeah,
later, I believe, for Tyus Jones.
great trade.
Marvin Bagley III, and it's important because Marvin Bagley was drafted second in that 2017 draft. So they used to have the third overall pick in Luka Doncic. Now they have the second. So progress made on that front, as well as two first round picks, one from Oklahoma City this year and a 2030 from Golden State, top 20 protected, and 3 second round picks. Once again, Mike, this is your team. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, is it the best haul? No. Is it the best haul you probably get at this point? Yes. Could you get a little bit more value in the offseason? Sure. But I'd say this move was mainly just to shed 80's salary from the books this year. I don't know if this gets them like below the luxury tax or not. Maybe not. But it frees up, I want to say this move frees up $7 million in cap for next year, which is huge. Like Dallas is one of those places where it can attract big name free agents, unlike Utah. So, I mean, I will say this is a very intriguing move by Washington because, I mean, you're giving up an expiring contract in Chris Middleton, which I don't know. He's old, way past his prime. So I don't think the Mavs are going to really keep him, but I mean, he could give you a little bit of production, a little bit of that veteran presence in the locker room. AJ Johnson could be interesting as a young player. I don't even know what position he plays. I want to say he's like a guard or something. Malachi Branham, which we talked about, that they actually flipped him for Tyus Jones, which I think was an amazing pickup. We'll talk about that a little bit later. And the first round picks that honestly aren't much, but they're still, first round picks. And I think the value that comes with first round picks is they can package those up and potentially use them in future trades. That's why I was talking about the Utah trade. I'm like, God, I think Utah might have lost this trade because sure, like those picks are seemingly like not worth that much, but nowadays we live in a league that really values first round picks where it's like, all right, if you accumulate enough first round picks, you can make like a ton of moves because then you're just packaging up like 4 or 5 first round picks for like a franchise changing player. So yeah, are they like individually the best first round picks in the world? No. You could maybe equivalent, especially that Golden State pick for like a second round pick or maybe that OKC pick as well. But essentially he gives you 5 picks that you can package up and potentially deal for players in the future. And then, like I said, I think the main move here was just shedding 80's contract. And yeah, you lose Jaden Hardy, but you pick up Tyus Jones in that flip from Branham. And then you have Kyrie that's probably going to come back either at the end of this season or early next season. And then you got Brandon Williams as well as whoever else they they end up signing. So I think they're good on the point guard realm of things. So I think it was a win-win. Washington gets AD essentially for super cheap, but I think I say super cheap in the fact that, you know, this is like a former, I don't know, I assume he won Defensive Player of the Year. I can't remember, but like,
Nope,
never won Defensive Player of the Year. I guess he didn't stay healthy enough. That's probably the reason why. But a guy who's like NBA top 75 team, and when healthy, that's the big if. When healthy, if healthy, can add a lot to your team. But I thought it was very interesting. The Wizards can take on salary. Salary means nothing to them right now because they're so way below, the luxury tax. So essentially, this is them just like taking a shot in the dark because they can.
Yeah, I think Washington was a clear winner. I know Mike is a Dallas fan, and he has what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, some favoritism for Dallas. Obviously, I understand why they did it. The Anthony Davis experiment never really worked because he was never really healthy, on top of losing Kyrie Irving last season to an Achilles tear. But my favorite stat is that Anthony Davis played, I think, 28 or 29 total games for the Dallas Mavericks, and Luka Doncic averages more points than that. So,
Rajon Rondo has played more games in a Dallas Mavericks uniform than Anthony Davis.
Yeah, so I mean, not to keep battling with the Jaren Jackson Jr. trade, but for me, it's like, is Jaren Jackson as good a player as Anthony Davis? No. Is he more available? Yes. Is he younger? Yes. And it's kind of like a similar trade package. Washington and Utah, both not super free agent destinations. So just being able to get a player that has high potential and not giving up a ton of assets, I feel like that's a win. Washington, I mean, you can clip this, like, watch out for them next year. I think their plans to sit out Trae Young and Anthony Davis the whole season this year to continue their quest for a top 5 draft pick. You could potentially roll out a Trae Young, maybe a Darren Peterson. I forget who's their 3 guard.
Keyshawn Johnson.
Who's a
Keyshawn George. Sorry,
Keyshawn George, Anthony Davis, and Alex Sarr. Like, in the East, that's a pretty interesting team.
Yeah.
And with Dallas, yeah, I get it. Like I said, Anthony Davis, you didn't want to pay him. You were fortunate enough to win the the draft lottery, and Cooper Flag is a monster.
Yeah, essentially, like, what people are saying is, like, because ultimately what this gives us is like, all right, this is what the Mavericks all got for Luka Doncic, just specifically trade-wise. But people have to also add in, like, Dallas would have never gotten the number 1 pick of Cooper Flag if they never traded Luka.
Yeah, and I mean, you can draw your own conclusion from that. They wouldn't have played as well. I was thinking about it today when I was driving home. It was just like Dallas was in the play-in. They were in this last play-in game to make the last spot for the playoffs, I believe. So they were like a 10 seed, essentially, 10, 11 seed. And they ended up with the first overall pick. So a lot of these trades teams are just like, we're not going to just bottom out, because those teams usually don't win the draft lottery. Like, the odds are just so leveled out that you can be the 8th or 9th worst team in the league and win the lottery. Win the lottery, meaning like the NBA is going to help you get a star player. So,
yeah, and hey, Luka's contract's up in 28, so it could be a reunion in the future.
Yep, we'll just keep dreaming about that one. But yeah, we'll see how that Dallas had to just get off those contracts, and yeah, they're rolling out Cooper Flag, and it's the Cooper Flag show. We'll see if Kyrie Irving comes back this year and how they play together. Keeping it moving. I don't think we'll spend a ton of time on this, but I thought it was a cool move by Oklahoma City. Once again, kind of a buying low trade on Jared McCain, who was balling his rookie year until he tore his meniscus and has struggled this year, coming off of that and trying to crack this Sixers lineup that now has BJ Edgecombe and, in my eyes, a star, if not an absolute superstar, in Tyrese Maxey. Sixers getting a first-round pick from Houston this year, so it's going to be, mid-20s, just with the way that Houston's playing, and a second-round pick and 2 other second-round picks, so 3 second-round picks. I feel like, yeah, it's a buy low move, and they're talking about the Thunder on top of being one of the best teams in the league. Now they kind of have a trio of TikTok stars in Jared McCain and the 2 Jalen Williams. So they'll be definitely helping dancing after Shea drops his 30 every single night. But any thoughts on this one?
I like this trade because, OKC is still the number 1 team in the league. It's actually not by that much of a margin anymore. Detroit's kind of sneaking up on them. But you might think, oh, this team's really good. Like, Shea's really good. When Jalen Williams is healthy, they're like really good, and they have like a lot of these young bench players that are playing really good. You have Casey Wallace, who's kind of emerged, but in reality, you kind of look at their lineup and you actually look at their shooting splits. Like, they're not that good of a 3-point shooting team. So bring in a guy like Jared McCain, like Spencer was saying, kind of buy low on him. He's not getting a ton of burn in Philly with their star backcourt. So you bring in a guy who was playing bananas his rookie year, especially from the 3-point line, and he can continue to do that for OKC, a team that specifically, you'd like to have a little bit more shooting around. They have certain players that are better at shooting than others, but you can't really rely on like a Lou Dort or, in their big matchups, whenever they played like the Spurs in the Cup, Alex Caruso couldn't buy a bucket. He's normally pretty decent shooting from 3, but it's times like that where it's like, all right, maybe we don't play Caruso, we put McCain in instead. He's still like pretty decent defensively, but then he's a knockdown 3-point shooter.
Yeah, I guess we both agree. We like the move from Oklahoma City. Keeping it going, another Bulls trade, getting Colin Sexton.
Yeah, let's talk about the Hornets team, man.
Yeah, Ousmane Dieng, I think he got traded like 3 or 4 times this trade deadline. I don't know where he ultimately landed. So yeah, the Bulls rerouted Mike Conley to the Charlotte Hornets. I think Charlotte's gonna buy out Mike Conley, and I believe there's talks about him possibly going back to the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's really close with that team, especially kind of a mentor for Anthony Edwards. And I think there's a rule called the Bogut rule that allows him to go back to the team because even though he was traded again, which allows him to go to the initial team that traded for him. Kind of crazy, but watch out for Mike Conley going back to Minnesota. Probably not to play much, but just to be a locker room guy. And yeah, Mike talked about it a little bit earlier. Kobe White, Chicago finally trading him, and I think it's an absolute steal for Charlotte, bolstering their backcourt. Serving essentially as a backup point guard to LaMelo Ball.
Yeah, I love him being on this Hornets team. It kind of it fits the frame of the Hornets, who's pretty much like all offense, no defense. So that fits the theme there. But he's a really good player. He can light it up from 3. He's a really good scorer. I liked him starting. Him coming off the bench, I think he can even provide more scoring that way. He can just like solely focus on that. So yeah, you got to watch out for this Hornets team because this isn't the only move they made. I want to say they made a couple other interesting moves as well.
Yeah, and they've won 7 straight, their longest win streak since, I don't know, like mid to early 2010s. So they've been balling and getting a player like Kobe White for
I think
Colin Sexton.
Make the play in, and they could be a team to watch out for, possibly making the playoffs.
Yeah, most definitely. This one, not to touch on again, Chris Paul finally got traded to Toronto, and Toronto told him, hey, don't even bother showing up. We're going to try to ship you somewhere else. I don't think they ended up trading him, so it's going to be probably a buyout situation. And I've heard him possibly going back to San Antonio, probably to serve as a similar role as Mike Conley, not really play, but just being a mentor to those guys. So this is Chris Paul's last season. I'm not sure this is what he envisioned, but it is what it is. I think he's 39 or 40 years old.
Yeah. Yeah, not much to say about this one.
Yeah, keeping it going. Kind of similar deal here. Jock Landale is someone the Jazz got in that Triple J trade. Ended up shipping him to Atlanta. Um, Cleveland shipping out Lonzo Ball to Utah, getting some second round picks and cap relief. Like I said, watch out for Cleveland. They're clearing their books for something. People were saying maybe it's Giannis, maybe it's the return of the king. But Utah also telling Lonzo, hey, don't bother showing up. We're going to buy you out. So Lonzo Ball, potential buyout candidate. Watch out for him to sign with a contender.
Yeah. Yeah, essentially just trade Landell for picks.
Keeping it going, I guess this is not where he ended up staying, but Charlotte got Tyus Jones temporarily, and Orlando just got cash. Big trade yesterday. Kuminga, the cum bucket, finally getting traded from Golden State, along with Buddy Hield, with Golden State receiving Kristaps Porzingis. And I haven't talked to you about this one, but I want to know your thoughts on this one.
I thought this was a great trade for Atlanta, and honestly, it's like very low downside for this trade because you're essentially getting Jonathan Kuminga at like an all-time low, and you get like a pretty good shooter in Buddy Hield. Like, is Buddy Hield like a needle mover for your team? No, but you add guys like Buddy Hield, Corey Kispert to this Atlanta squad who kind of have struggled offensively when they don't, like Jalen Johnson can't do everything. So I like the pickup, and they trade Porzingis, who, again, career history having injuries, and I want to say he's an expiring contract as well. So essentially, you get Jonathan Kuminga and a shooter for nothing.
Yeah, I agree. I think Atlanta easily won this trade. I saw Golden State Warriors and we finally got the center, and just like Kristaps Porzingis like has played like 16 games this whole season. And I looked it up. Apparently, he has this like rare nervous system illness. I thought it was more like the Magic Johnson illness. That's what people were speculating online. If you know, you know. And I think I also saw a report that Golden State Warriors now the only guard that they have that's over 6'5" is Guay Santos. So.
Because they're starting pods. It's like projected lineup is like Curry, Pods.
No, like on the roster, like there's no one over 6'5" that's like a guard. Like,
Warriors. They're trying to like salvage what they have left of Curry, but they've already like mortgaged their future with Jimmy Butler, and now that he's out for the season, it's like. Honestly, I would have loved them to get like a Daniel Gafford or someone. I'm surprised Daniel Gafford didn't get traded. I wonder if the Mavs were asking too much. But I would have traded Gafford for Kuminga and Hield in a heartbeat, honestly. Or maybe even a pick.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, Porzingis, if he can get on the court, he's obviously the best player in the trade, but it's just a matter of an if. And they needed a center, so we'll see how much he plays. Kuminga has been wanting a trade for multiple years, finally got it. I think Atlanta won this trade, and they've made a lot of interesting trades at the deadline, obviously trading Trae Young. They just have a team kind of just full of, I wouldn't call them dogs, but guys that can play. So we'll see how, I'm hoping they can, at least be over 500 because I do have them for my wins.
They're just like I think at this point they're just like a really like young athletic team, which I mean for the regular season they can prove to be like work pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, I know last week I bet on them. I think they were favored by 1.5 against the Pacers, and they ended up losing to like
15. I bet the Pacers on that one.
So. You have games like that where they'll beat like a really good team, then they lose the 12-win Pacers, and it's just like hopefully these wins will help.
Hey, Pacers when they're a little bit healthy, they're not that bad. You got to remember they still got Spicy P.
Yeah, and they made probably the last big move of the deadline, which we'll touch on. This.
Yeah, I love that. You don't want to talk about your Lakers trade?
Well, we're just moving up on the list. I mean, this one we don't really need to talk about. If you're a fan of Yabusele, the Bulls got him, and they traded. I don't know who this guy is. Dallin Terry.
Yeah.
Dillingham. This was somewhat of an interesting move. We could spend maybe like a minute on it. Ayo once again, a Chicago Bull, getting traded to the Minnesota Timberwolves. Rob Dillingham, a guy that they traded the San Antonio Spurs on draft day, future first round pick for, has never really worked out. It's like Minnesota cut ties with him, as well as Leonard Miller. Sorry, I don't know who you are, as well as 4 second round picks. Minnesota needed kind of like another guard to help out Anthony Edwards with ball handling duties. I like it for Minnesota, and Chicago buys low on a potential Rob Dillingham.
Yeah, I like this for both teams. I mean, especially with Mike Conley not being there anymore. Ayo Dosunmu comes in. He's I like Rob Dillingham. He's played a lot better recently, especially because he's had to, since Minnesota's been dealing with Ant being out for some period of time and other injuries. But he's small. He's a small, undersized guard. So I like them picking up Dosunmu, who's has a decent amount of NBA experience, like in his first 3 years of playing and competing against good players, and you got to remember they also have Terrence Shannon off the bench as well. So whether Dosunmu starts or comes off the bench, I think he'll be a good addition to this team.
I agree, and I think we're getting to my Laker trade. Lakers get the shooter but not defender.
Yeah, I was about to say, I was like, he can shoot the ball, but that's like one of Ellie's problems. You got to solve the other problem.
I think he's leading the league in 3-point shooting. I think 49.5%. Let's call it 50% from 3. Mm-hmm. I don't know on how many shots, but he's never shot below 41% from 3 his whole career. And we rid ourselves. Please Lakers, never, ever, ever pick up a Miami Heat guard in free agency. We saw it with Kendrick Nunn. We saw it with Gabe Vincent. Never again. And we had to give up a second-round pick, which I think was our only tradable second-round pick, because we used our other second-round pick on Bronny. But I mean, I like it. It wasn't the defender that obviously we needed, but it does help our shooting, which I think we're like 23rd in the league in 3-point shooting. So I think we won the trade in Atlanta.
Yeah.
Gets an expiring deal and a second-round pick.
Watch Gabe Vincent ball out now in Atlanta.
Yeah, the lights are always the brightest in LA. But Luke Kennard played with the Clippers, even though they're not as bright as the Lakers. It is LA. So
yeah, so I like this trade as well. Fills in one of those needs. Unfortunately, you'd like to fill in both needs. You get a 3-and-D type player, but obviously nowadays in the league that we live in, it's going to come at a premium, which I don't know if the Lakers can afford at this point. But yeah, it's a good pickup for what they gave up. Gabe Vincent's, not the player that you Laker fans were hoping to be, and a second-round pick's a second-round pick. So you get a pretty good, really good shooter in Luke Kennard, and hopefully that efficiency, stays up there in the high 40s, especially playing with some good playmakers. I was surprised that this was the only move the Lakers made. I would have thought they. And maybe we'll do at the end, like potential.
We got new owners. I think Luke Kennard also expires after this year. So I think next season, I think currently the Lakers are the only team that could offer a max contract. We do have Austin Reeves as a restricted free agent. So a lot of that money, hopefully, or is kind of pinpointed for Austin Reeves. Some teams are saying there really isn't a free agent to give a max contract to. We also have, obviously LeBron's contract coming up.
But I heard, they could like wrap up Austin Reeves and a good trade package for Giannis in the offseason.
Yeah, so we'll have to be seen. Not a defender, unfortunately. So we'll see how the season goes.
Yeah, I thought the Lakers were going to make a move for a center. I was surprised that they didn't.
Yeah, but I think Dallas has officially closed the door on ever trading with the Lakers again.
Probably.
That's
Yeah.
that's the report
Honestly,
I saw.
I would have been open to trading Gafford. Um, I'm trying to think like what
For
players.
Connect in a first,
Yeah, potentially. I don't know if I want
And
Connect
probably
though.
Gabe for filler. I don't
But
know.
yeah, but
I
yeah,
think we're like you said, we're holding a lot of our picks in case a
to be
certain Greek
honest, yeah,
player
I think
comes
that's probably the
available.
main reason why the LA didn't pull the trigger on a center because it's like, hey, if we can land Giannis in the off season, like that's the plan A.
Yeah, keep it moving. Eric Gordon apparently still in the league. Went to Memphis. I don't know if that's ultimately where he ended up. Bulls, Bills, Bulls, Bucks, Bulls, Suns. Um, Suns traded Nick Richards. I just don't know what Milwaukee's doing. Like,
Just loading up on like centers that are like kind of okay and good for stints, and then once they get to Milwaukee, they just suck.
I mean, yeah, I mean,
All right, honestly, we can skip this trade. The trade I want to talk about next is Alvarado to New York.
okay.
And what New Orleans gets, honestly, at this point is like they got Dalen Terry, who was traded from Chicago to the Pelicans, um, and 2 second-round picks. So essentially, just traded Jose Alvarado, who I believe was an undrafted free or undrafted rookie that they got him for. So yet 2 second-round picks out of him. Pelicans not really going anywhere, so you trade him to a more of a contending team. I think it's a very interesting move. He's definitely one of those energy hustle guys. And I don't know necessarily how well he plays, like how well he shoots, how well he defends, but um, I don't. I kind of like it for the Knicks. How much of an impact is he going to have? I don't know, but
I think it's a huge move because I don't know if you know, but Miles McBride,
out for the
uh,
season.
is out for the season, so they
Yeah,
needed some guard depth,
backup point
and that
guard.
provided them with that.
Yeah, so I like that from the Knicks.
And the last trade of the day, really, I mean, we
Yeah,
talked
this
about
is a
Tyus Jones eventually getting swapped to Dallas, but the big one is Ivica Zubac, former Laker, Mike Muscala. If you know, you know.
shooter. Stretch five.
Getting traded to the Indiana Pacers along with Kobe Brown, with the Clippers receiving back Benedict Mathurin, a baller, undersized baller, but a baller nonetheless. Isaiah Jackson, 2 first-round picks, and a second-round pick.
I love this trade for Indiana because Zubox is a legit like perennial all star in my opinion, especially if you pair him up with a good point guard. Obviously, once Harden went to the Clippers, you saw Zubac's game evolve even further, and even up until that point, Zubac was easily getting double doubles every single game, getting near 20 rebounds every other game as well. So pairing him up with a healthy next season Tyrese Halliburton, honestly, I'd say might be a definite upgrade from Miles Turner, in my opinion. Sure, you get a little bit less on the defensive end. Actually, I don't even, yeah, maybe a little bit less on the defensive end, but you get a guy that's, I think, maybe a little bit healthier, and he's not the stretch shooter that Miles Turner is, but he's more of an inside presence. And he's just a bigger guy. He sets better screens. And so I love this move for Indiana. And it's interesting because this wasn't Indiana's first option for a center. You know what their first option was?
I don't.
Walker Kessler. And
Interesting.
the rumors had it where they were offering the Jazz 2 first-round picks for Walker Kessler, and the Jazz rejected it. So I'm curious what your thoughts on that. 2 first-round picks for Walker Kessler. Do you think Walker Kessler is worth that?
I feel like they've. Let me make sure that the audio is not working. Yeah, I feel like teams have been asking for Walker Kessler for a while, and that's kind of what they've been asking for. I don't know. Well, I guess they could have offered him Benedict Mathurin as well, probably basically the same exact deal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Walker Kessler was balling, and they thought he was going to be a huge component of the season. Obviously, he tore his labrum and was out for the season kind of before it even started. Uh, I think he's definitely worth it. I mean, how old is Zubac? I think he's in his late 20s.
28.
Kessler's like 24, 25.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a product of just Utah never really wanting to trade their assets. And then when they finally want to trade him, it's like a Colin Sexton, John Collins situation where you trade them for 20 cents on the dollar. But
Except
you
for
know, they made the trade for Jaren Jackson Jr. So I think like they want to roll out the big front court and see how it does. So you can't really blame them for that.
yeah. But it's interesting because I mean, who knows? Walker Kessler might be better in the future than Zubac, but I think Zubac is honestly a better option as the second option. You know, so yeah, I think this is awesome for Indiana. It'll be interesting how he's incorporated towards the end of the season because literally they're just trying to tank at this point. Actually, at this point, I don't even know if they're purposely trying to tank because they're playing a lot of their players as they get healthy. They have almost all of their starting lineup back, except obviously for Halliburton. And I don't know if Neesmith is out for the season or what, but they're rolling with a lot of their main guys, and you know they're just still losing. But that's good for them because then they get a top 5 pick in next year's draft, and then reload with a healthy Tyrese Halliburton, and then he beats a Zubac at the 5 with a top 5 pick, either at your 2 or 3 spot. The East is getting a lot more interesting, I will say.
Most definitely until Giannis gets traded this offseason to a West team and all the best players in the West.
But to be fair, even the Bucks, like if you even look at like the East teams right now, like there's probably like 4 or 5 that you at this point could probably make out of the East.
Yeah. Only to just be sacrificed to whoever wins the West. But yeah, I like the trade for Indiana. And, you know, the Clippers one, you might want to kill it, but I saw the 2026 that protected in parentheses, and I had to just confirm that. That is super interesting because it's Indiana's first round pick this year. It's protected 1 through 4, and then 10 through 30. So if it lands between 5 and 9, which I don't know where Indiana is currently in the standings. They're not the worst team. That belongs to the Sacramento
like
Kings.
3 or 4.
But if they fall out of that, even at 5, the Clippers get a top 5 pick in next year's draft.
Yeah.
That's interesting. So I think the Pacers will definitely be motivated to lose as many games as possible to have that worst record in the league. So in order to lose that pick, they would effectively
Does that make you rethink the Jazz situation?
Yeah, I mean, I said like if I was the Jazz, I would have maybe done the trade, especially with a player like Benedict Mathurin, who I'm a big fan of. And if that pick doesn't convey this year, then it becomes a 2031 unprotected first round pick. And Indiana is not really known to be a consistent, you know, championship or playoff team. So that's an interesting first round pick, as well as the 2029.
Yeah, I'm like if the Jazz got the same terms, it's like, bro, like because they have their own pick this year, right?
I believe it's top 8 protected, so they're doing their best to keep that.
Yeah. So otherwise, imagine if they have that pick and say like a number 5 pick, like, whoo.
Yeah, or I mean, you would just
package like Jazz.
Or you package like the Indiana's 6th pick and your 7th pick to move up to number 3 and get a AJ Debinsa or a
Cam.
I want to say Carlos Boozer.
I mean, or Caleb Wilson.
Caleb Wilson. What's Boozer's son's name? I was going to call him Carlos, but Cam Boozer. Yeah. So yeah, that's the trade deadline. Obviously, a lot of big moves.
All right, we got to talk about this last trade that came in. Tyus Jones for Malachi Branham, Dallas, Charlotte trade. I think this is a phenomenal trade for the Mavs, just because, like I said, you get a good, solid backup point guard, and I don't even want to say like he's commanding that. Like I know he signed a new deal, I think like a season ago. I want to say he's making like 14, 15, maybe at max $20 million towards the end of his contract. So I think it's a really good contract for the value that he brings. He's a guy who's like a true point guard. He's a little bit undersized at 6'1", but for a backup point guard, I don't think with his skill set and his shooting ability specifically, I don't think he can really get any better for that. And you traded a guy like Malachi Branham, which played sparingly for the Spurs and probably isn't going to really play at all for the Mavs. So I love this trade. This is like low key, like one of the best value trades, in my opinion, of the whole trade deadline.
Yeah, no, I'd agree. So yeah, like I said, that's the deadline. Obviously, was a lot more fireworks than maybe Mike was anticipating.
Yeah,
but we're here for it, and it'll be interesting how the season goes.
let's do this. What's your top like value trade? Like this team like won big time based off of this trade, or who's the biggest winner of this trade deadline?
Yeah, I mean, I guess those are kind of two separate.
All right, let's do two separate ones. Let's do biggest winner, biggest loser, and then like best value trade.
I think the biggest winner right now, I would say, is the Charlotte Hornets. I like Kobe White. They didn't get out of Sumo. That was Minnesota, but they got somebody else, didn't they? Or was it just Kobe White?
Kobe White, Malachi Branham.
I have the roster.
Yeah, which they got. Who else?
Yeah, I guess it was really just Kobe White, and they had Tyus Jones, but they traded him. I don't know who Malachi Branham is, truthfully. I guess he was good enough to trade Tyus Jones, but I feel like they were kind of just missing additional guard depth, and they got that in Kobe White. I don't think his contract's expiring, and I think it's a decent contract, kind of like you said. Long-term winners, I like Washington. I mean, it wasn't exactly a last-minute trade deadline move, but you got Trae Young and Anthony Davis for really pennies on the dollar. I think in a Eastern Conference that's weak now and just weak in general, it sets them up nicely next season to be, somewhat of a playoff threat.
Yeah, I agree.
Who are your winners?
Winners, if I had to choose one, I'd probably say Washington. Like, for the fact that obviously we don't know how this is going to play out, but they got two all-star caliber players kind of for pennies on the dollar, which a lot of teams are, scared of taking risks like that. But it's like Washington has been so bad for so long, and they have a pretty nice little like young core, and they didn't really have to give up really any of them to make these shots. And I want to say they probably have a pretty good future as well as far as like picks. They didn't give up a whole lot. So I'd say that those were the biggest winners. If I did choose one, I would also put in there the Hawks. I think the Hawks really won this trade deadline as well. I mean, you trade a player like Trae Young, he's helped you make the playoffs a bunch of years, make one Eastern Conference Finals, but has been, he has his criticisms. He's undersized point guard, doesn't really play much defense. Sure, he brings a lot offensively, but you could say that's negated on the defensive end. And he's lately had injury issues. So you let a guy like Jalen Johnson, who, hey, hats off to who's their coach right now? Bro, I can't remember people's names. But hats off to their coach for starting to play him a lot more, and they discover like, wow, this guy's like a really good. He's like an first-time All-Star this year. He could make an All-NBA team this year, and put a bunch of young, long, athletic guys around him and get some shooters. Corey Kispert, Buddy Hield. I think those are really underrated pickups. So they might be like my best value trade. I know those are two separate trades, but yeah.
For sure. And losers for me, I mean, it was the first trade we talked about. I didn't love what Memphis got for Jaren Jackson Jr. I know, kind of like Dallas, you got a huge contract off the books. Jaren Jackson will be making like high 40s to low 50s for the next, I think 3+ years, if not 3 or 4 years. But I think it goes beyond just the Jaren Jackson trade. It was just not unloading John Morant. Maybe it speaks to his trade value currently. But if you're going to blow it up completely, and they just failed to do that. My other loser is the Milwaukee Bucks for the kind of the same reason. I could eat my words in a sense that they get a great haul for Giannis if they choose to trade him, and if they don't, they'll be even bigger losers in my opinion, because they're paying Damian Lillard $20 million this season and for the next 4 seasons to not play for them. Like, the ship has sailed. Like, trade Giannis and get something back to build for the future, because you're not going to win a ring with him.
Yeah,
And
with
I
this
guess
team,
those are my losers.
yeah, they're nowhere near a championship caliber team. The only person who's championship caliber on his team is him. I agree. So I'd say my biggest loser in this trade deadline. I had it. Where'd it go? I'm just looking at all the different trades. I would say this. And granted, they only really made one trade, but I'd say it's the Golden State Warriors. Like,
that was going to be my other one.
The fact, and I know, Mike Dunleavy Jr. saying that if, when you demand something, there needs to be demand, and there really wasn't any demand for Kuminga. Like, I understand that you're probably not going to get a ton of value out of it, but you have a clear need at center. Like, Kristaps Porzingis, like, that's not it's not a long-term solution. I don't even think it's really a short-term solution. Like, like you said, he's played 16 games this year. You already have an aging roster. Jimmy Butler's out for the rest of the season, probably for half of the next season as well. You have an aging Steph Curry who's still playing out of his mind because he's freaking Steph Curry, the best shooter alive. But like, the best you can do is Kristaps Porzingis. Like, I find that hard to believe. Like, even try like for a Zubac or someone, yeah, it's kind of disappointing with the Warriors. And I mean,
Yeah, probably still wasn't a great fit, but I heard if it wasn't the trade deadline, it was before the season started, the Kings offered Malik Monk and I think like a first-round pick for Kuminga, and I feel like that's probably a better
honestly just even a first-round pick.
Yeah, so yeah, I'd agree. Warriors were going to be my other one, but I kept it just 2. But I agree, Warriors.
Yeah, honestly, I think
I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. Like,
I think they can make the play-in, but I don't think they're going to win and make the playoffs.
Yeah, and I guess that's what they deem playoffs. Like, you have to be in like the actual playoff tournament, not so much.
Yeah, clear loser. They needed to make moves to be competitive, and they didn't really make any moves. And the one move they made, I think, was really bad. And we could talk about that Bleacher Report article where they deemed that trade an A, like graded it an A for the Warriors and like a D for the Hawks. Yeah, that I didn't get that one at all.
Yeah, I mean, you're just gonna trot out Kuminga and see if there really is anything. And Buddy Hield, like, you weren't gonna play Kristaps this year, so
no, they essentially got those 2 players for nothing.
Yeah. So, yeah, we've gone a little long. I know there's a big game, the big game, on Sunday. I don't know how much you want to talk about it. My Raiders aren't in, obviously.
Cowboys aren't in. They should do I'm convinced they need to do some sort of toilet bowl. Honestly, I think that would attract a lot of people.
Yeah, most definitely. But
it's like you get like an extra pick or something.
I don't think the line has moved. It's still stuck on 4.5. I'm just gonna go ahead and say I will play the 4.5. I think Seattle is the clear favorite here. And and there's talks about Drake May and his shoulder, problems with that. Um, I think I saw one of the guys that Mike follows on Instagram. He's like a betting guy, but he was saying if you like Seattle, just take Sam Darnold to win Super Bowl MVP because those are plus odds. And I like Jackson Smith and Jigba, and I think he has a legit shot at winning Super Bowl MVP, especially if he has like a 100-yard game and scores a touchdown. But typically, like the MVP, which is happening, the NFL awards are happening tonight. Matt Stafford coronation time, but yeah, most of the time Super Bowl MVP goes to the quarterback, and Sam Darnold I think is currently plus 115. So if you just bet him to win Super Bowl MVP, that would insinuate that Seattle's going to win the game, and you get plus odds.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Yeah, other than that, I mean, they say some like people have like injuries or whatever. Like Drake May and his shoulders all listed as a full practice participant on Wednesday. Like these guys are gonna play. Like, like sure they might be a little bit limited, but I mean something like that. I think they just put everything on the injury reports nowadays. There's another safety that was diagnosed with a low ankle sprain. Nick Amonwori. I think he's a starting safety, but they're confident he'll play in the Super Bowl. So, yeah, honestly, this is like one of the only. I feel like the NBA, like what we thought was a dud trade deadline, ended up being like the feature of the week rather than like on Super Bowl week. I know Spencer was talking about it's like why are they making the trade deadline on Super Bowl week, but I feel like the NBA trade deadline has kind of overshadowed the Super Bowl. As far as like news and stuff that like no one watches the Pro Bowl. I guess the Pro Bowl happened and one of my group
The Pro Bowl happened on Tuesday in like a warehouse or a convention center. So
yeah, it's like
I think it's finally time to just scrap the game. Or I mean, back in the day it used to be in Hawaii and they do like skills competitions. Like
yeah.
I feel like they should just bring that back. Like that was exciting. Like I like to see them throw longest pass or throw it through some hoops. Like
Now they're playing flag football.
I don't want to see Brock Bowers put on these like Hulk gloves and try to catch a football. Like,
Was that actually happened?
they weren't like green, but they were big white gloves. Like,
it's like see if you can catch this football.
Yeah, just doing stuff like that. Like, yeah, Pro Bowl is a joke. NBA All-Star Game's a joke.
Yeah,
I was looking for it. I'm not super confident in it. Maybe it's because I'm just been a huge Matt Stafford guy this year, and I've heard the reports about Drake May and his shoulder, as well as Seattle secondary. But I will look for it and probably play Drake May over half an interception. I think Seattle's going to.
Yeah, one thing I'll probably play. I think I'm going to play two things. One, I'm pretty certain I'll play is first half Seattle spread. Right now, I'm looking at like -3.5 plus 114. I think that's pretty reasonable because, I mean, I think Seattle's going to go up big in the first half, and then Patriots, they're going to come back a little bit. I still think Seattle will probably cover the whole game, but eliminate some of that volatility for potential for comebacks because I think Seattle's going to come out firing pretty heavy. I don't think Seattle is going to be trailing this game. And then the other one would be I bet it. I think it was last year or the 2 Super Bowls ago. Defensive touchdown scored. I remember it was a flip, and it was like they did boosted odds, and it was like plus like 7 something or plus 6 something for a defensive touchdown score. I want to say there was 1 or 2 defensive touchdowns, like a pick six or in a scoop and score. So I would probably bet that too. More so of like. I think the odds could be a little bit higher, but honestly, a little bit more on the gambling side for that one.
Yeah, and there'll be quirky stuff that I'll look at and probably just play just for fun. But I don't know if you have any other plays, but I was going to say we can just run through because last year I think I hit it perfectly. It's being played at Levi Stadium, so the Seahawks are the home team, meaning New England will pick the coin toss. Heads or tails?
Robert Kraft's favorite part of the game. Well, people are like, I was listening to a podcast and they're talking like Super Bowl props and stuff like that, and they're saying like there's actually a lot of people that go tails because they think everyone goes heads, so they want to do the opposite of that and say tails. I don't know. It's 50-50, so traditional heads. Give me heads. Give me head.
Gotcha. So you have it being heads, or you have New England picking heads?
Oh, if they're picking it, I would say it's going to be heads. But if they're picking it, I think the people, I don't know, maybe this is just like wrong intuition. I think they'll probably say tails, call tails.
Oh, you think New England's going to call tails, and then it's going to end up being heads?
Yeah.
Okay. And then Seattle defer?
Yeah, of course.
And I guess with this new kickoff, although it was in their last season, touchback or landing zone?
Oh, landing zone.
First play, pass or rush?
Rush. Are we going to put this all into a single parlay? I don't even think you can.
Okay, I'm gonna say New England picks heads. It's tails, so Seattle still wins, defers. Yeah, and probably rush too. Like I don't see Drake May. Drake May usually doesn't throw the ball 40 times like Matt Stafford. They like to mix in the run game. So yeah, I guess our consensus is first play of the game is a run play. If you can find that.
We just bet that. It's probably it's probably like minus like 180 or something. But probably even more. Unless you specify it's like New England run play.
Yeah. But I guess the only other play I would say that I'm pretty confident is a JSN touchdown.
Oh, for sure.
So
what's the total in this game? It's like
45.5.
That's such a vanilla line. I think this is good. I want to say it's an under game, but
well, yeah, give me your prediction, final score, and I'll give you mine.
Final score. Oh, I say it's like Seattle 24, New England. What, like 17? I think Seattle will be up big at halftime. Patriots will come back a little bit, make it a little bit interesting, and then Seahawks win by a touchdown.
So you like the under then?
Yeah. I think it's going to be a good defensive game. Like Seattle's defense is the best that the Pats have gone up against, and the Patriots defense is no slump either.
Yeah, I think we're pretty much in the same wavelength. I'm going to go 27-17, so pretty close to that over-under. I'm a lot more confident in minus 4.5 than I am playing in the under.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I'll probably end up playing 6.5 and try to get some.
Yeah, I mean, I think like people were hammering the alt lines for Seattle. It was like minus 6.5, minus 9.5, minus, I think even a little bit of minus 13.5.
Yeah, and all I'm going to say is bet responsibly because, like Mike said, there are a ton of people on the Seahawks hammering alt spreads.
And the line hasn't
and you never know. Maybe Robert Kraft calls some of his buddies in high places and New England pulls off the upset.
We get Dark Knight Rises. Or Dark Knight Rises scene.
Yeah. And Stephon Diggs and Cardi B make a baby on the field. Who knows? Another one, I guess, because she's already pregnant.
Okay, cool. I think that kind of wraps up everything. I don't know if there's anything. I've not been really betting the NBA at all this week because
no. I mean, we talked on UFC and Volk. He handled business. It was a pretty much.
We went 2-0 in UFC this past weekend.
Yeah, you picked Roofy, right?
Yeah, Roofy and Volk.
Yeah, there wasn't a ton of value on Benoit, but that was a lock too.
Yeah,
And my guy Alcaraz won the Australian Open.
that's true. I stayed up for the first set and I fell asleep after that because it was
So he
2:30
went
in
down
the
one
morning.
set, but then he locked in and won 3 straight. So yeah, I think I got made Mike a little bit of a tennis fan. So mission
Yeah,
accomplished.
I got us watch a little. Like, what are the different tournaments? I know they have the 4 major. What is it? 4 majors?
Yeah, so there's a little bit of a break. I think the next one is in March, end of March / beginning of April. That's the French Open, Roland Garros. Then it goes Wimbledon, which is pretty shortly after that, like a month or so. And then it wraps up the U.S. Open.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Well, thanks guys for tuning in. Have a good big game Sunday. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, remember to like and subscribe. And as always, if you have any suggestions on stuff you want to see, just like it says in the banner down below, comment what you want to see in our future streams. But appreciate y'all. Catch y'all later. Bet responsibly, and we'll see you next week.